Oh no. Who's that? Here? Well, fill me in later.
I mean, I probably shouldn't be name dropping in first hour.
Okay. All right, guys. Today, we are going to move on from where we were yesterday. Now, tonight, you have reading. So turn to page 15, 14, 15. Okay? These are relatively short synopses of three different political philosophers you've probably heard of: Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and then if you turn the page, guys, page 17 and 18 is an excerpt of something that is way longer than this. The Second Treatise on Civil Government by John Locke. Now, guys, this is kind of like reading Shakespeare, although it is in English. Okay, so some of you will struggle to understand what it is saying, but do your best if you like. There are 5 questions you can answer after reading that, and you can take a picture of it. I'll put it on the second hour of my plan. I will put it up on Canvas, okay, and you guys can turn it in tonight before midnight for 10 points. Do your best, okay? If you showed me you did your best, you'll get 10 out of 10, okay? Good? Okay? Now, then there's page 19, which is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, okay? Now, all 3 of these political philosophers are talking about the social contract theory, okay? What this really is, guys, when you're reading this, you're thinking about which form of government, what social contract? Because social contract's agreement between the government and the governed, the people. And so which form of government works best for human nature? For people like you and me. What works best? Okay, now you probably know the answer to this already. Which of these 3 philosophers did we borrow most from? John Locke, okay? But it is important to study the others, guys, because we're studying different forms of government in here, and we're studying human nature. And so it's interesting to look at how people view mankind, okay? And so tomorrow, you will also receive a grade as a class based on the discussion that we have over these 3 documents tomorrow, okay? So I asked you at the beginning of the semester, I said, hey, there's going to be like 3, maybe 4 times where I ask you to read something and be prepared to discuss it the next day. And you guys all agreed. You looked at me and said, yes, we will do that, okay? So you guys know what annotating notes, right? You don't have to do a bunch of this. Just to highlight a couple things, or, things that stood out to you about what these philosophies mean, okay? And then we'll just have a discussion. If it's a great discussion, you get more points. If it sucks, I'll give you a point. So, who's carrying the class tomorrow? Go, girl. All right. All right. Okay. So, I'll post all that on Canvas during second hour. Okay. So, we're going to get back to the notes. I left off with, a quote from Socrates yesterday. Okay. And if you look at our IL today, or our LI, I should say, our learning intention, differentiate the form, system, and types of government using multiple criteria. Does it sound confusing? It does sound confusing. I don't even know if that makes sense, okay? But I had to write something. So, we're going to start with different forms of government. So you get new header in your notes, forms of government, okay? subheader. Under forms of government, because we're going to use different criteria. Geographic distribution of power. So we're going to look at different forms of government based on geographic distribution of power. Where the power lies geography. Okay. All right. So the first system we're going to talk about is the unitary system. Luke, if I were to say, who was the baseball player that was called the big unit? Major League Baseball player. Yeah. Randy Johnson. Okay. Okay. So think big unitary system. Okay. So let me define this for you, and then I'm going to show you a little graphic up here that'll help you understand. Centralized government. Centralized government where all power is in one location. Centralized government where all power is in one location. Okay. The vast majority of countries in the world today are unitary systems. There's your big unit, okay? The centralized government that holds all the power, okay? So in Wichita, Kansas, the highest elected officer in the city of Wichita is who? The mayor, okay? Now, the mayor has some power in Wichita. We don't live in a unitary system, okay? So when Mayor Longwell was mayor, he said, we need a new water treatment plant. We're going to raise taxes. We're going to spend $400 million. We're going to do a special bond for it. And I'm going to get to choose the people that get to build it. My buddies that I play golf with. Thank you. Okay. I talked to Jim a little bit last night. Saw him at the basketball game, which was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is what we got this morning from him,
Oh, good. Okay.
with more information about questions that we asked.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody watch Shocker game last night? Dude, first 15 minutes of the game, they looked freaking awesome. 18-point lead. Lost it. Went to overtime. Lost. Started at 8. Got home at 10:30. All wound up. Got about 5 hours of sleep. Okay. All right. Enough about me. Let's talk about unitary systems. Okay. Now, the unitary systems, guys. So, in the case if we were a unitary system, Mayor Whipple wouldn't, he might be elected, but he didn't have any power. He would be told what to do by the national government. You understand? So basically the people at the state and local level are just minions of the national government. You understand? Okay? We don't have this. Now, Britain, France, Germany, most countries in the world use a unitary system. The second type of system of government, geographic distribution power, is this. It's confederal. To define confederal system would be to say an alliance of independent states. An alliance of independent states. So all power is held at the state and local level. The national government has very little power. Okay? The European Union today, okay, is a confederal system. So like Britain, Brexit, they left. Okay, excuse me. France, Germany, Poland, Hungary, okay? Like 15 countries in Europe that are part of the European Union, okay? You guys know what the euro is, right? That's the currency of the European Union, okay? It's a loose, independent alliance of states that join together for a common purpose. What's the common purpose of the EU? It's not a military alliance. It's not a peacekeeping alliance. What kind of alliance is it? Economic alliance. To compete against who? Us and China or anybody else. Okay, that's the whole reason for the European Union. Now, the British, like, you know what? Actually, you're doing more than that, and we don't like what you're doing, so we're going to leave. In fact, the British never adopted the euro. They kept the pound. So they were already on the outside because the pound was the most valuable currency in Europe. They're like, what? You want us to, like, reduce the value of our currency? No, we're not going to do that. And then they said, we're leaving. Okay? Because we don't like what you're telling us to do. All right? Good? You might recall the United States' first Constitution, the name of it. The Articles of Confederation. We tried this. So guys, when we declared our independence in 1776, we had 13 countries. And then in 1781, they wrote the Articles of Confederation. How'd that work out? It didn't really work for us. Okay, so it lasted 6 years. So in 1787, we wrote a new one, getting rid of this. Okay, the national government has very little power in these situations. Canada, guys, uses a confederal system. As we learned yesterday, how many provinces in Canada? 10 and 3 territories. And Mexico has how many states? 2, 32. Okay. Now, guys, wait a second, Mr. Reaver. How can the national government be so weak in Canada and they have a national healthcare system? That sounds more unitary than confederal to me. Well, guys, all 10 of the provinces agreed to a universal healthcare system. So they allowed that to happen. Okay. So they're pretty, these provinces are pretty independent of each other. So like in Quebec, what's the national language? It's French, but all the others are English. So they retain a lot of autonomy, these different provinces. Okay. But they do at some point give some strong powers to the national government, i.e. over healthcare. Okay. I.e. over the lockdowns in Canada were pretty draconian. Okay. You might remember the truckers. Okay. You guys remember the truckers about a year ago? Like they were pissed because what do you do as a trucker? You sit in your own truck all day long. And some of these guys didn't want to get vaccinated. Well, they wouldn't let them work if they weren't vaccinated in Canada. Okay. that's quite a bit of national power. So Trudeau is like this little, mini dictator up there. He's, I don't know. Okay. Anyhow, all right. So you got confederal systems. All right. The last is what we use, which is what? See, this really helps prove a big point to me, guys. If we don't even know the system of government that we use, is it easy to take it away and people don't even know? Okay, this is something that every American should know. Okay, and it's reinforced through our Constitution, and it's called a federal system or federalism. See, the boxes are roughly the same size. Okay, so let me define federalism. Federalism, the sharing or division of power, the sharing or division of power between national, state, and local governments. Sharing or division of power between national, state, and local governments. Sharing division of power between national, state, and local governments. Ample. What is federalism? I reserve the right from here on out to ask anybody in this room to define federalism for me. Put a star next to it. Underline it. Highlight it. Learn it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this document, Supreme Law of the Land, defines all powers given to the national government. It also denies certain powers to the states. Kansas cannot declare war on Canada because the Constitution says states can't declare war. Kansas cannot print its own money. Only the national government can do that. Crypto crowd, huh? This crypto stuff? Is that allowed? I don't know. Congress really hasn't decided yet how to regulate crypto. Okay? Because most people don't understand it, including members of Congress. Okay? Including me. I haven't done the deep dive on the crypto thing yet. Anybody in here done the deep dive on the crypto thing? A little bit? Can anybody come explain it to the class, or be worth learning?
Liam
Who?
Liam Law.
Liam Mall? Vaughn? I don't know this person.
How do you not?
Yeah, that's
Not my class. He doesn't play baseball or date one of my baseball players. I don't know who they are.
He's weird. Like little. I love him.
See a senior?
Sorry, that was nice.
But he's
Well, that's
in
even
my
more.
own.
He's in like all of our classes.
Oh, he's nice.
Well.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look forward to meeting him. All right. So guys, listen. I will spend really 2 whole days later on in another section talking about federalism. Okay. This is very important. So, what do we do at the local level that the national government is not involved in? police forces, firefighters. We build roads at the local and state level. Public libraries, school systems. Now, we've talked about education before, guys. The federal government, under the Constitution, has no role in education, yet they are involved. So this is my point, guys. We, since the 1970s, are moving closer and closer in this country to a unitary system, right under our noses, and people don't even see it because people are uneducated. They're not taught this stuff, okay? And it is a serious problem. It's a problem because you're losing this. Now, the founders of this country designed this because they saw the confederal system not working. A unitary system, guys, you have a very small number of people making all the decisions. The more we turn over our decisions to DC, the fewer people that have a say. 535 members of Congress, 1 president, 9 Supreme Court justices. So basically, you turn over all the decisions in the United States over to less than 600 people. That's not how our system was designed. Our system was designed to allow certain powers to be reserved to the state and local governments. The 10th Amendment in the Bill of Rights reinforces this. Let me quote the 10th Amendment again for you. Those powers not granted to the national government nor denied to the states are reserved to the states or to the people, which is local government. Okay? This is how our system is supposed to function. Okay, so when we talked about, just real quick and then we'll move on. Talked about mandates. Okay, things like mask mandates. Okay, did President Joe Biden or President Donald Trump have the power given to him in the Constitution to mandate that you and I have to wear a mask in public? Does the president have that power? Absolutely not. Does the governor of Kansas have that power? She thought she did. She might have. And then the state legislature took that away from her. And they gave that power to who? So let's say COVID comes back big in Wichita, in Kansas. People are dying. Who has the authority to tell us whether we have to wear a mask or not, where we live? You guys don't know the answer to this? The County Health Commission. So each county, we have 105 in Kansas, has a county health commission. Okay? Director, county health, whatever the name is. Okay? They will decide based on the number of cases whether we have to mask or not. So it went from, Joe Biden trying to say, he could do it. And then they said, no, you can't do that. And then the governor said, we got to do this. And they said, okay. And they said, yeah, but we're going to change the rules so you don't have that power anymore. We're going to bring that down to the local level. Because what's happening in Western Kansas may not be happening in Kansas City or Wichita. You see the difference? Okay, so that's local control over whose lives? Our lives. Okay, so if you want one size fits all, from a national government perspective, a cookie cutter approach to the whole country, then you want a unitary system. Does that make sense? If you want local control over things that we deal with in our daily lives, then you want more federalism. If you want to go to an extreme on that, then you go back to a confederal system, okay, where the national government has no power. That didn't work for us, guys. We're a big country. You've got to give some power to this body. It's necessary. Okay, and it does some good things. All right? And we'll, like I said, I'll go into more on that because you get me going down that road, I'll talk all day. Okay, so we're going to change direction here. So we're still looking at forms of government, okay, but no longer under the geographic distribution of power, but we're going to use a different criteria. This one is forms of government based on the number of people that can participate. And you might be able to figure out where I'm going with that. Like if only a few people can participate, or everybody can participate, maybe like only one person gets to participate. Where am I going with this? Huh? Who can vote? So like if everybody can vote, what do we call that? Okay, we're going to talk about democracy. Don't write that down yet. And what if only one person gets to vote? Dictatorship. Okay, so we're going to talk about dictatorships first, then we'll hit democracy later. Now, guys, dictatorships can be confusing. Because when most people think of dictatorships, they think of a dictator, like one person. Okay? It's not always one person. All right, so let me define dictatorship for you. Those who rule do not follow the will of the people. Those who rule do not follow the will of the people. That is a dictatorship. All dictatorships are authoritarian. What's authoritarian mean? Well, let me define that for you. Power is absolute and unchangeable. Power is absolute and unchangeable. Okay. Now, when we break these down, these dictatorships, break them down, we classify them in two areas. Autocracy. Auto meaning what? The Latin. Self, okay, or one, okay. Rule by one. Autocracy. Autocracy. Okay. As opposed to an oligarchy, which is rule by few or a small group. Did I misspell something?
This autocracy doesn't look right.
I know.
Is the R in front of the A?
Yeah, I did something wrong there, didn't I? I had to fix differentiate this morning. I had a C in front of a T. Put a C here instead of T. I knew something was wrong with it when I wrote it. I just needed a little help.
No, I do that.
Okay. All right. So understand this. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way. Okay. So a dictatorship can be more than one person that rules. Okay. Or it can be one person. So in your mind, you hear the word dictatorship. Name me like a form of dictatorship. What do you got? How do you think? An autocracy is a way to describe a dictatorship. Characteristic. Name me a type of dictatorship. No. Communism is an economic system, which we will talk about tomorrow as different forms of government based on economic theories. Okay? Now, you could say the Soviet Union under Stalin, and what type of dictatorship would that be? Not communist, but what did Stalin like to wear? How did he dress? He wore a military uniform. So this is an easy way to figure out if the leader wears a military uniform all the time, it's a military dictatorship. Tons of examples of this. Think of any other foreign leaders in history that like to wear a uniform or today. Kim Jong-un is a perfect example. What about in history? Hitler. Hitler was a military dictator. Now, Stalin and Hitler were both autocrats or oligarchs. They were both autocrats. Now, Lenin was an oligarch. And remember the name Khrushchev that came after Stalin? He was an oligarch. So, the best description of an oligarchy that I can give you, okay, is China. Okay? Listen, they have 1.3 billion people. Less than 1% of the Chinese people are members of what? The Chinese Communist Party. Guys, not everybody's in the party. Very few people. You are very powerful in China if you are in the party. Okay? So they choose the president. The Communist Party of China chooses the president. That's an oligarchy. Okay? Now, Mao, the first communist leader of China, was he an oligarch? Now, Stalin wasn't an oligarch either. Stalin's not going to hold elections. You understand? Oh, you want to hold elections? Yeah, you're dead. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to allow anybody to remove him. Hitler the same way. The Nazi Party chose him, I guess. You know, they kind of did it. You know, kind of did it legally. But, yeah, so after Stalin, the Soviet Union had a series of elected leaders, okay, from the Communist Party. Everybody with me? So sometimes these oligarchs become autocrats. Okay? Castro, military dictator. Saddam Hussein of Iraq. Was a military dictator. Okay? And of course, Kim Jong-un. Yes. Okay? So, now, okay, we got military dictatorships. What other type of dictatorship might there be? Go back in history. What? Say Britain? A type of dictatorship. Thank you. A monarch. Is he right? I'm going to say Britain. A monarch. Now, we still have these today. Best example, Saudi Arabia. They have a king. He has power. Is he an oligarch? Is he an autocrat? He's the king of Saudi Arabia is an autocrat. Okay? Military can be either. What would you call a dictatorship run by religious leaders? Theocracy. Now, I can only name 3 currently in the world today. We got the Pope. Nope. Democrat. You're in the right part of the world. But what'd you just say? ISIS. Iran. Stop. We got them. Vatican, ISIS, which is a caliphate, right? And then Iran. So the Islamic Revolution of 1979 in Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini took over. Now today in Iran, guys, they have a president, but he is a puppet of the religious leaders, the imams. Imam, okay? They tell the presidents what to do. Now, ISIS is not recognized by any nation on this planet as a country, okay? There's no diplomatic recognition of ISIS, period. So they don't really qualify, but there is an attempt, guys, please pay attention, with ISIS, guys, or the Islamic State, is to create a one Middle Eastern government for all Muslims to live under. That would be a theocracy under the caliphate, or excuse me, under the caliph, over the caliphate. With me, okay? It's in the Quran, guys. This is what most people that live in Saudi Arabia would love to live under a caliphate rather than a king. Okay, the king of Saudi Arabia is under immense pressure by fundamentalists in his own country that believe, like Osama bin Laden, who was Saudi, thought that they should live under religious rule, or in other words, Sharia law. So in Iran, you live under religious law. The whole system is based on the Quran. So, how's that? How's life in Iran? Especially for women. Not good. ISIS is worse. Okay? They take it to more extreme. Okay? I don't know how many women live in the Vatican. I'm sure there's some, right? I don't know. Does anybody know? I don't know. Never really thought about it. So just right now. What do we got? Okay. I've never really even thought about that. I'm sorry. I don't know. Okay, whatever. All right. Now, one more thing with dictatorships, okay? Some dictatorships are classified as totalitarian. This doesn't sound good, does it? Not good. Matthew Dugan used to say, not good. Rule through force. Rule through force, controlling every aspect of life. It's totalitarian. Rule through force, controlling every aspect of life. There's an easy example of this in the world today. North Korea. Very good. Okay. Now, let's talk about China a little bit. Are they totalitarian? See, here's the thing. In China, you actually have quite a bit of economic freedom. Okay? You have pretty good freedom of movement. Like you can move from one city to another, that sort of thing. Obviously, you don't have, freedom of religion. You don't have freedom of speech. And if you're a Uyghur or a Muslim minority, well, they may choose to enslave you, maybe harvest your organs, these sorts of things. Slave labor, okay? Sounds pretty totalitarian. But guys, in reality, it's easier to open a business in China than it is in California. You just got to pay the right people in China. You know, members of the Communist Party. And if you're in good with the Communist Party in China, you don't necessarily have to be a member. You just got to pay the right people. It's a very corrupt society. Okay? And so when we're dealing with the Chinese, our businesses are dealing with the Chinese, and we have a lot of that, you understand. And when our government is dealing with the Chinese, you have to keep this in mind. It's a corrupt system. Okay? And they're willing to pay people off to get what they want. And they have a lot of money. Okay, so when we adopted Lily in China, we took, there were 13 families from all over the United States that went. We traveled all together, did everything together. But one of the couples, the mom, she was from China. She had come to Florida to study in college. And she met an American, and they got married. So she became a U.S. citizen. Her family's all back in China. So when she came over to adopt a baby, she left for a couple of days. Like, where'd those guys go? And so we talked to her when she got back. She says, well, I went to see my dad, who's a member of the Communist Party. Okay. And, you know, that could have cost him the fact that his daughter left China and never came back. Okay. Like, that could have cost him his membership in the party. But she told us, she said, if you guys ever want to go back, you know, you want to take Lily back to China or something, let me know and I'll call my dad, the Communist Party guy, and he'll make sure that everything's, you know, your trip is all good. We haven't done that yet, but maybe one day we will. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, guys. It's hard. It's hard. Guys, Nazi Germany was totalitarian. Right, every aspect of life, okay, through force. All right, so there are examples of this. Myanmar, which was formerly Burma, is pretty totalitarian today. Okay, it's not a good place. All right, so tomorrow we'll jump into different forms of democracy. Okay, it's a little more complicated than you may think, all right, but not too bad. Good. And hey, we're going to read tonight, correct?